Ladies and gentlemen, did you really think I was gonna just make Ukraine content forever? Maybe. But I was not gonna ignore the latest installment of Zach's Gun Rants. This is 1 hour and 22 blistering minutes of angry gun talk. I can't wait. Let's get into it.
All right, so you have your inflammatory remark back. Doesn't feel weird? I didn't adjust the stock in a weird position.
As long as the 0 is fine, I don't care.
It's still zeroed. What do you think, I am a pleb?
Yes. You don't know how guns work.
Ooh, them's fighting words. Immediately thereafter, there was a team kill incident.
What in the hell is this abomination to John Moses Browning's holy name?
Looks like a gun.
In that it shares some characteristics with a gun.
Sure.
It's a nightmare.
Oh, okay, so these are the DIY weapons of Fallout 4. And Fallout 4 has some weird ones. This is the sort of cobbled together pipe gun. Now let's see what he has to say, and then I'm going to share what I know about DIY weapons.
What do you mean by that? Look at it.
It looks like absolute dog piss.
I'm a big fan of function over form. So, as long as it can propel a bullet down range.
The magazine is sticking out of the side of it. The barrel is literally made from a piece of steel that is welded together.
First things first, just because the magazine's sticking out of the side doesn't mean it's bad. It means it's an Uzi.
No, that means it's a MP18, Mike. An Uzi has the magazine sticking out of the bottom.
Are you sure?
Yes, I'm 100% positive.
He's trolling Zach so hard, it's great.
No, I don't think so.
Let's see how well it works.
Yeah, it functions correctly.
I can make a heavier receiver for my pipe pistol.
Yeah, you like your
Okay, all right, yeah, let's just take a look at what's wrong with this. A lot is the short answer, right? The longer answer is, okay, why is Zach so triggered by the existence of this pistol? Well, for a couple of reasons. So what you have to understand is the physics of what's happening when a round goes off, or inside of a firearm, right? The primer is being struck by the firing pin. The cartridge needs to be seated very firmly inside the chamber, right? It needs to be like hugged, right? So that when the primer or the powder explodes, right? Explosions are going to want to apply pressure like this, but you have so much reinforced material around the cartridge that instead all of it gets channeled down the barrel, transferring as much kinetic energy as possible into the bullet. What's the problem here? Well, first off, there doesn't appear to be like a space where the round should go. You can see here, there's an ejection port, which means the chamber would be here, but the magazine, I guess, is fed from the side here. So somehow the bullet gets like seated into the chamber here, but look at how just not reinforced this chamber is. It seems extremely light. And when in Afghanistan, they're actually legendary for what are called Khyber Pass copies. And this is a long tradition in the Khyber Pass region of copying firearms that are basically work their way into the country. So you can go and you can find copies of Enfields, AK-47s, AK-74s, Mosin Nagants, just about any firearm you can find a copy of it. But the key word is that it's a copy, and you'll be able to tell pretty quickly at first glance that this is actually a copy. And the problem is that, one, for a firearm to function reliably, it needs to have extremely high levels of precision machining, right? And while the firearm itself might be cheap to manufacture, the machines that do the pressing, welding, fabricating, drilling out, those are ultra precise machines. And the truth is, Khyber Pass copies don't have access to them. And so, yeah, in the era of maybe the flintlock musket, it would be easy for these people to create reliable facsimiles. In the modern era, you need to make sure everything needs to work together to create that reliability. You need not just regular old steel from Karachi, you need tempered, treated, specific alloys that are going to withstand that high pressure, right? The high chamber pressures that are going to be reliable. You're going to need to make sure your barrel gets chrome lined right? And has the other coatings necessary to ensure that it flows and doesn't have needless obstructions. Even things like the trigger handguards, polymers, the gas tube, these are all things that are extremely engineered and have been refined over, in the case of the M4, it's the reflection of, 40, let's see, it came out in the 60s. So what's that? 80 years, 60 years of continual engineering and continual process improvement. So the idea that someone working in a crude workshop outside of, Karachi is going to be able to just, or Lahore, is going to be able to knock out something that is functionally close to an M4 is nonsense. Even if it fires, there's no guarantee that it will work over 10 rounds, 100 rounds, 1,000 rounds. And that's what this sort of says. This is something that looks like it will probably not work over more than a few dozen rounds, simply because it's just so crudely and badly built. I have launched a YouTube course. That's right. In the last 18 months, I've gotten 20 million views on the platform. But for 2 years before that, I slaved away, earning not one dime and getting a tiny number of views. So I've taken all the lessons I've learned about how to optimize thumbnails, how to create clickable content, how to do a title, how to optimize for SEO. And I've put it all into one YouTube masterclass. And the best part is I have a money back guarantee, right? If you take the class and in 6 months, your YouTube channel hasn't made at least the value of the tuition back, I'll refund you. So it's risk-free. So check the link down below. I should have the promo code on there for like 90% off or something. But you absolutely want to use it. Take advantage of it. Okay. Thanks so much. Let's get back to it.
Pistol that much? Your pipe pistol?
No, I absolutely hate it, but I mean, oh, that's kind of cool. It's a fun little shitty stock. Offside should. That's not a reflex sight. That's a piece of pipe with 2 nails drilled in it. Oh, good God.
That's a shotgun, huh?
This is terrifying. This is just a freaking blunderbuss. Oh, I hate it. I hate it so much.
I kind of figured you
It's
would.
a freaking zip gun. Oh, this.
That's what they were called in the 50s. In the 50s, when firearms were not as widely manufactured as they are today, oftentimes extremely poor criminals who still wanted a firearm would manufacture their own weapons out of, and they would call them zip guns. That was a term for something crudely manufactured. Shotguns were usually considered pretty easy because the chamber of a shotgun would just be pipe. So you could actually have a weapon that was simply, I probably can't be too specific here. They were able to, because a shotgun round is a cylinder and pipes are also cylinders, it was easy to use commonly available materials to construct a very, very, very simple firearm. Again, safety not required.
This is bad. This is real bad.
A zip gun, you say?
Yeah, it's basically made out of 2 pieces of metal that you just bang them together and it shoots.
Oh, okay. You got a bayonet on it too, I see.
Yeah, I do not want to use this, especially with how long it takes to reload this piece of crap.
Is it a single fire shotgun?
It's a single shot. It's real bad.
If you were desperate for a gun, maybe.
If I was desperate, but I also have a semi-automatic 12 gauge that does way better than this.
We'll stick with that.
It's the PPSH BAR.
It's not, though.
Oh my God. What? Oh God. This is a crime against God right here. I mean, a BAR, Browning Assault Rifle, I think, Browning Automatic Rifle? Let me know in the comments what BAR stands for. And PPSH, literally a Soviet weapon and an American weapon from the same era, smeeshed together.
Oh,
it's got the top cover of a PPSH 41 for some reason, but then the magazine of a Browning automatic rifle, and then the foregrip of a Browning automatic rifle.
Oh, what kind of stock does it have?
It's got a PPSH 41 stock on it. It's not well designed.
Automatic Jaguar.
What? It looks like a Villar Perosa in that it has 2 barrels, but it's also got like the gas system of an AK on it. So, okay, this is really weird, because you got the barrels, and you got this thing on the top, which I would presume would be the gas piston system. Unless that's just a gas tube. But then why is there an op rod on the bottom? And then also, why does it have the handguard of an M60 on it? It's also got like the takedown lever of an AK. What even is this?
I mean, yeah,
I'm still fixated on the
I too am fixated on the double barrel. Like, why? How? Is it two guns like duct taped together?
double barrel. Who needs that many barrels? It's so extravagant.
Why is it also made of license plates and the speed limit signs? Behold, the Dragunov.
Yes.
I find it kind of interesting that there's a pick rail on the top of this, because I wouldn't necessarily put a pick rail on the top. That's why it's got the side mount for a scope. The reason I wouldn't put an optic on top of the top cover is because the top cover can wobble around, so it means that your optic isn't really going to stay zeroed.
Yeah, this is one of my pet peeves when I see, even in footage from Ukraine, there's a lot of people with that the B-17 dust cover, and it basically mounts to an AK-12 or an AK-74, and it's meant to be really, really stable, locked in place, so that you can use it as you can mount a sight to it. The problem is that I don't understand it, right? The AKs I've used, the dust cover was it was firmly mounted, but it wasn't precision. It wasn't precisely mounted to the point where you could reliably mount an optic on it. That's, again, as they said, why you want to mount it to the receiver of itself. The receiver is the gun. It's not going to move independent of the gun or barrel. So anything mounted to the receiver is going to be locked in place, whereas anything mounted to the dust cover is, well, it's just a dust cover. It's going to wiggle around.
Oh, that's a problem.
Not a great idea. So
But I think the aftermarket like B whatever dust covers seem to have solved this by extending it. Like it looks like it's almost extended straight across, but I'm really not sure.
that is the front end of an AS Val. Why are you putting the front end of an AS Val on a 7.62x54R? What?
Time to make a Frankenstein gun.
I can put an acro on this. Ew, Barska. Ugh.
Not a big fan of Barska
Oh
sights.
god, they're terrible optics.
How so?
They have a hard time holding zero. They don't hold up to abuse. Not very good.
What are you basing this opinion on? Your personal experience?
My personal experience with Barskas.
So is this like a mod with real guns? Because I noticed a Micro T1 and EOTech, like those are real sights.
What's your sample size on that?
Several Barskas and also several that customers have owned. PSO1, which is the optic that should be on it.
Are you going to put it on it?
No, I'm going to use this thing with iron sights.
All right.
I'm going to use a Dragunov as a battle rifle, even though that's not something you're supposed to do.
You want to put optic... Okay.
The Dragunov isn't technically a sniper rifle. It's really more of a designated marksman rifle. I'm not...
Okay, so when he says a designated marksman rifle versus a sniper rifle, what am I talking about? A designated marksman rifle usually is a rifle that is meant to engage targets conventionally between 600 and 800 meters. This is a weapon that is usually more precise than the standard issue rifle, but it is not a dedicated sniper rifle. A sniper rifle is something that is usually bolt action. It's usually designed to engage individual targets, often shooting undetected. A DMR is something that can be used in a firefight where the enemy sees you, but you want to be able to deliver lethal rounds at greater distances. And it's usually wielded by a designated marksman. Designated marksman it can be everything from just the person in your squad or platoon who is the best shot to someone who has actually completed a designated marksman's course. This is something we actually were able to get for our entire platoon prior to my deployment. And what was fascinating was that it was taught by a combination of U.S. Army instructors who traveled from the U.S. Army's shooting school at Fort Benning all the way, and it was also accompanied by civilian competition shooters. These were coaches who had coached at the national and collegiate level competition shooting teams. And they did it with no body armor or helmets. And it was just really about precision shooting. And we were able to reach out to 600 meters with the M4. And that is how we ran it. We didn't have designated DMR rifles, though I imagine nowadays probably just like the M16A4 would probably be good enough to function as a DMR. But nonetheless, we ran it with our M4s.
I'm not a huge fan of the PSO1 because it doesn't have adjustable eye relief, and your eye has to get pretty close to the back of it. And because the Dragunov has quite a bit of recoil, they put this rubber cup on the end of it.
To absorb the recoil.
It's just supposed to smush into your face.
Uh-huh.
Doesn't work great.
No.
No, you kind of just end up bonking yourself with it a lot.
Right in the eye.
I also find it funny that when they built the Dragunov, they also put a bayonet lug on it. And normally, your barrel's supposed to be that long. 3.5 foot long rifle with a bayonet on the end of it that basically just turns it into a small lance. Frankenstein.
The Frankenstein.
Oh man, gotta love it.
Dragunov is a 7.62 by 54R semi-automatic rifle that was designed for the Russian military to give the infantry a little bit more range than the AK-47 could provide.
Yeah, the AK-47 is a good, reliable, all-purpose rifle.
Yeah, it's a good infantry rifle, but this is designed more for slightly longer range engagements, so when you got like one guy in a machine gun nest, you can have your designated marksman just pop him with this thing. And 7.62 by 54R has been around a long time. The upside is that it's a very high power cartridge that works incredibly well. The downside is that rimmed cartridges don't exactly like to work well in semi-automatic guns, but the Dragunov seems to do pretty well on handling it.
So there's a 7.62 and a 7.62R.
Well, there's a 7.62 by 39,
Yeah, he's gonna break this all
which
down.
is what the AK-47 uses. Then there's a 7.62 by 54R, which is what the Dragunov uses.
Good evening.
Hi, we're having a conversation, thank you. There's also a 7.62 by 51 NATO, which is a cartridge with a lot of bolt actions and semi-automatic rifles.
Yeah, so what does he mean when he talks about a rimmed cartridge? Let's actually take a look, right? And honestly, okay. In the 1880s, not making this up, that was when the 7.62 by 54R, the rimmed round, was designed. Here, let's take a look. Designed in 1891 was when this was built. And the idea was that you can see here at the bottom, look, notice how there's a rim, a lip around the primer, right? And the idea here was that in bolt action rifles, you sort of wanted something to keep the round from sliding too deep, like into chambers and stuff. You wanted some sort of catch at the end. So these rimmed rounds were perfect for it. But of course, that was when you had bolt action rifles, right? So we'll do 2 by, sure, 39 is a good example of there we go. Okay. And here we go. Here's a perfect example of a 7.62 by 39. Okay. Notice here, look at how, here we go, 7.62 by 39. Oh, perfect. So here you notice that there's no lip, that this round feeds smoothly, right, from the bullet through the primer. And there's a, there obviously is an indentation here, but on this rimmed round, it actually sticks out. It forms like a little flange. And this is the fundamental difference. And this is an extremely old style of round that literally almost everyone else has gone around with, except for our friends, the Soviets. And the reason that they stuck around with it was basically because so in 1891, right, the Tsar commissioned the Mosin Nagant for this rifle. They built a gazillion of these rounds to fight their enemies. World War I comes around, they manufacture a gazillion more 7.62 by 54R. But then the Russian Revolution happens, and there's this Russian Civil War, right? So both forces are, again, fighting usually with either other countries' arms and ammunition and old World War I stuff. But then the Russian Civil War ends in the 20s, late 20s. You have the 30s, and the Russians are like, hey, we have to, basically so in the 30s, they don't really do a lot of updating. The Russians are notorious for it. They still are fighting with Mosin Nagants. Then World War II happens. They fight the whole thing with Mosin Nagants. And towards the end of World War II, in desperation, they say, hey, we're in a hard way. We need new weapons to bring to the battlefield. We're seeing our allies, the United States, they have the BARs, their Garand is semi-automatic. The Germans are starting to roll out their own semi-automatic and fully automatic individual weapons. And they go, listen, we just need to figure out our own. So they start designing weapons with what they already have. They look and they say, listen, we have still millions and millions and millions and millions of 7.62 by 54R rounds. We're not going to turn these into scrap and build a new round. Instead, we're just going to build our new weapons around this existing round. So basically, every generation, every decade, they looked and they said, is it worth it to create a new round? No, we already have this old round. Let's just design around it. But literally every time you say, hey, we're going to build this weapon around this antiquated round, then you build the weapon, then you manufacture more rounds for the new weapon, and then you end up, the next generation looks and they say, well, we already have these antiquated rounds for the old weapon, so let's just design our new weapon to fit them. And so that's how you end up here, where the modern Russian military, right, is still fielding these SVDs and PKMs chambered in 7.62 by 54R, a round from 1891 that has this rimmed characteristic that, as Zach points out, is sort of antiquated in the era of semi and full auto weapons.
Rifles use. I'm not a fan of this scope. I might change the scope out.
And this isn't endemic to the Soviet Union, right? Look at the M16 M4 platform. This is something that's 60 years old that the military has tried time and time again to upgrade and replace with something more suited to the modern battlefield. And just the way momentum works, it's just so hard to do. There's existing contracts, soldiers are trained on it. We have this round, and the truth is the 5.56 round is dangerous. But is it suitable for modern battlefields? Basically not. It's become really worrying because body armor is widely available by every force. And so you want something that's going to be able to penetrate and shatter that armor. So, you know, the rounds need to get bigger, but institutional momentum is just so strong in so many facets. I mean, look at the aircraft carrier. The aircraft carrier doesn't really add a ton of utility to combat operations. And yet we have 12 of them to the tune of billions and billions of dollars, right? And while they're fun for power projection, they're not actually all that useful. If you want to protect your allies, usually you can ask them to borrow an airbase. But in World War II, the last big naval engagements, the last war with big naval engagements that the U.S. fought, carriers were instrumental to the success. And then since then, the U.S. has just said carriers must be good, despite the fact that, you know, World War II and today, there have been tectonic changes in military technology, and carriers are more targets than they are assets.
So you shot that Dragunov before?
I actually used to own one, but it was the civilian version of a Dragunov, which was made by Izmash. It was called the Izmash Tiger. Didn't have a muzzle brake on it, so decent chunk of recoil. You do end up smacking yourself in the face with a scope a lot because there's no adjustable eye relief.
And this one doesn't even have the suction cup, so you can't absorb recoil.
Well, the scope's further forward on this one. The military one is kind of even worse because the military one just has a metal plate on the stock.
God.
Oh, fun stuff.
And 7.62 by 54R is definitely not a comfy recoil. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, like I said, I like to think I'm sort of a tough guy. And I certainly am not a novice to firearms. The metal plate on my Mosin, which is still full sized, and shooting 100 rounds through it in a single afternoon, I had a gigantic dark purple bruise right here on my shoulder. And that's after 100 rounds, not that many rounds. And certainly I could have probably, if I kept shooting 100 rounds a day for days and days, I probably would have toughened up my shoulder and learned to deal with it. But holy cow, that round has a punch.
Sorry. What do they think 308 ammo is? Because apparently the high caliber, it says larger 5mm rounds. Do you know what 308 is in millimeters? Almost 8 millimeters.
Is 8mm bigger than 5mm?
Gee,
Mike's trolling is getting better and better.
I don't know, Mike. You can do math. What do you think?
I can't do gun math. You guys have weird rules.
No, yeah. 8mm is bigger than 5mm.
He makes a good point. And why do I say that? Because what sort of round is bigger, a 9mm or a 5.56? The answer is actually in conventional parlance, a 5.56 round is bigger, but it's because the bullet diameter is not the same thing as power, right? A 9mm is a pistol cartridge. It's a wide bullet, right, with not a lot of propellant, whereas the 5.56 is a narrow diameter bullet and a smaller bullet overall with a ton of propellant behind it.
Here's PP-19 Bizon. Here
All
it
right.
is.
Yeah, all right.
Looks like an AK-47.
Wait, no, it doesn't.
It's got the same top cover as an AK-47.
Okay, it's got the same top cover.
It is derived from an AK-47. It uses 9x19mm from this weird helical magazine on the bottom. Check this out. There we go.
That's actually pretty wild.
Shoot it for a second. Now watch me reload it. That's the magazine. Yeah, it's like a 50-something round magazine.
That is a weird way to do the magazines.
Is that reliable?
Yeah, it's very weird, but apparently they work okay.
Of all the weapons you could have gotten, you got 2 submachine guns.
Yeah, I love submachine guns.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. So that weird knobby thing coming out the back is the charging handle.
That is
It's not
so
the
weird.
eyesight. You don't put your eye on that.
No, that's the charging handle. This is
You pull the lever back like a pinball machine.
yeah, like that.
Really?
Yeah, that's like the K31 Swiss, the Swiss bolt-action rifle. You would put your finger through a ring, rotate it, pull it, push it, chamber it again. Now, you may be asking yourself, wow, it gets pretty cold in Switzerland. Does that seem like a good method? I think maybe they also want, you could also like grip it with 2 fingers and rotate it on the outside. But still, I sort of feel like that would not do great in cold weather.
Yeah, you pull back on that thing to charge it.
Good grief.
Anyway, it's designed by Saab and Bofors. It's interesting in that the barrel can be...
I always love when a car manufacturer or anything, any company that makes one thing also is like, oh yeah, we low-key make weapons too. Saab actually makes, I think, fighter aircraft. Obviously, they made this weapon. It's just fascinating. Similarly, you have like, I think Volkswagen also has like a military division. And who else? What is it, like Yamasaki or something, also like low-key made a bunch of like fighter aircraft in World War II, and they're like, oh, we also make speakers.
removed, and you can immediately change it over to 6mm projectile that can be used for training, but they do also have a tungsten armored penetrator.
You can fire multiple calibers of bullets.
Yeah, just by literally changing the barrel.
So you would be able to rotate out the upper receiver.
No, you just take the whole barrel out the front of it.
You just remove the barrel.
You remove the barrel, put a new barrel in it, and now you have it shoot tungsten armor-piercing projectiles.
Damn.
Huh. Why wouldn't you just use armor-piercing bullets of the same caliber?
Because 9mm armor-piercing bullets don't work great. I am okay with weird submachine guns. I love submachine guns so much.
They're just not your favorite.
No, submachine guns are like my favorite weapons.
Huh?
I like submachine guns more than I like assault rifles.
Why? You just like the volume of fire?
I just love having a small weapon with a whole lot of volume of fire potential in 9mm. When I was in the military, I kept trying to order MP5 submachine guns and use them instead of my M4. They were not happy every time I tried to order those.
What's the difference between a submachine gun and an assault rifle in this context?
In this context, a submachine gun is...
I mean, here's the problem, right? A submachine gun, a pistol round, you're only going to be able to deliver accurate fire, honestly, 100 meters max, before your bullet literally doesn't have the kinetic energy to keep going, or just the trajectory gets so screwed up that you're not going to be able to deliver lethality. But in Iraq, not so much. But in Afghanistan, for sure, you had engagements happening at 200, 300, 400 meters, and you had to be able to shoot back. And nothing would be worse than to be in a situation where you could not shoot back. Now, I will say that in Iraq, I think actually using 9mm rounds would have been better, because you have to think, if you're clearing block by block, city block by city block, a powerful 5.56 round, if you've ever watched a Paul Harrell channel, you know that round penetrates through a lot, like from house to house. So you're creating this incredible danger to the civilians in other rooms. And not to say that 9mm also won't punch right through walls, but just less kinetic energy means it's going to stop sooner. So instead of shooting your rounds going into the other buildings, the rounds will just at least stay in your building, right? Or if the walls are like concrete, they may even not even penetrate through the walls. All of which can ensure the fundamental principle of hit what you want to shoot at and don't hit the things you're not shooting at.
Is anything in like a pistol caliber or like a smaller than rifle caliber?
Oh, so it's just the caliber of bullet. They're basically the same gun.
This is basically like the helical magazine on the Bizon that I showed you a second ago, only it has a long tab that goes all the way up onto the inside.
So basically the bullets keep on going past your hand to get into the gun.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
That's how every pistol works.
This thing is fun. I like this. I'm more excited about this than I am about the Dragunov. I'm actually very excited about this.
I've never heard of this gun before. I've heard of the Dragunov.
Yeah, it's a Swedish gun.
Not the Dragunov. The Dragunov's a Russian gun.
No, the Dragunov is Russian. This is Swedish, and it's intended as... It's kind of weird because it's like a personal defense weapon / submachine gun, but it's...
Okay, I want to point out one little detail here. You may notice that there's like some wires running up and around this site. I believe that this is actually a retention that sometimes to ensure that weapons don't or optics don't fall off your Picatinny rails, you will actually tie them down to the rail, giving you an extra chance that even if these knobs were to get knocked loose somehow, you wouldn't lose the optic entirely. And you can do this, usually we would do it with baling wire and just sort of cinch it tight, like use nippers to nip off the ends, and then you have that secured to your weapon.
It also can be used as a squad automatic weapon. It's a multi-role like submachine gun thingy, and I'm actually very excited about it. I think it's really cool looking.
Sounds versatile.
Yeah. Bizon!
Somebody rechambered the barrel, I guess.
Yeah, they swapped out the barrel for a 10mm, I guess.
That's what I said. They rechambered the barrel.
No, they just swapped out the barrel. They didn't rechamber it. They just swapped it out.
That's what rechambering means.
No, rechambering.
He's such a good troll. Like, he knows that Zach is a firearm expert. And so just Mike trolling. Mike is just better at getting the rants to trigger, honestly.
It means you actually took the barrel and bored it out for another chamber.
Maybe they did. What a weird... I'll never get over how weird that magazine is.
Yeah, it's real weird, but apparently they are somewhat effective.
But then why don't other guns adopt that same style?
It's kind of hard to do it with anything other than 9mm or like pistol calibers. Whoa, Scorpion! Why are all the guns left-handed in this world? They all eject out of the left side of the receiver.
You think maybe they pressed all the lefties into service? Like they conscripted the lefties?
That's pot. Are you having problems?
Maybe in Fallout world, left-handers are the most common.
A little.
I also found this thing.
Oh, 9mm pistol.
No, it's a Stechkin APS.
I've never heard of that in my life.
What kind of caliber bullet does it fire?
I think 9x18.
Oh, so 9mm, exactly what I said.
It's full auto.
Whoa.
Jeez.
Yeah. I'm not gonna use it.
No?
This thing just wastes ammo. You point at the mailbox, you're like, hands up, mailbox. Hands up, mailbox. And then the mailbox is like, I'll take you down. And so you pull the trigger on it and, oh my god, ah!
Now that you put it that way?
Yeah. It's cool. Don't need it. Yeah, Stechkin APS, it's an interesting idea in concept because like a lot of other small submachine guns or fully automatic pistols, it was designed for like tank crews or people that couldn't carry around a full-size rifle.
But why would they make it automatic?
Because it does have a small stock that's...
That's what I was going to say. Usually these have some sort of micro stock or like unfolding wire stock or something to give it that little bit of extra stability where you rest it against your shoulder.
supposed to attach to it, but even with the stock on it, it's real hard to control.
Yeah, exactly. So why would you have it full auto? It doesn't seem...
It does have a selector lever.
Also, guys, just one other note. Hit that subscribe button. I have this dream of getting to 100,000 subscribers. I'm so close. I'm at like 80,000. If everybody that watches this video hits sub, we will break it. I will get that YouTube silver plaque on my wall there, and I will be able to prove to all of the haters and my mom that I have a real job. Sort of.
This one seems broken, though. I can't switch it off full auto.
even still, why even have the option? It sounds ridiculous. You burn through all your ammo, then you gotta...
I mean, if you're like 2 feet away from somebody and you just pull down the trigger on this thing, you are gonna absolutely riddle them with lead.
Yeah, that's probably the idea, is like some sort of like downed pilot or disabled tank crew scenario where you literally have to just push back an enemy that is on top of you or your vehicle. Yeah, see that stock kind of makes sense.
Goodness.
Yes?
That would not actually work.
Oh, interesting. I wonder
What?
why.
They
What?
don't make an EOTech that small. What the
That's why it's called a micro reflex sight, Zach.
Somebody, what? Oh my god. Somebody was goofing. Somebody was goofing and made dumb stuff. Somebody was goofing and made dumb stuff. There's no rail mount on the bottom of a Stechkin. 45 conversion. Flèche rounds?
No.
It's a pistol.
Flèches are like little darts. Shooting a bunch of little darts.
It doesn't even shoot flèche rounds.
It will if you give it the conversion.
No. Yeah, that's a level.
Okay, guys, we are going to pause it there. We have made it only 12 minutes in, so rest assured, there's a lot of rants and a lot of ranting ahead of us. But if you enjoyed this, again, hit that subscribe button. Also, thanks to the patrons of Patreon who make this possible and get access to my hottest, spiciest YouTube videos that are just a little too spicy for old YouTube. Anyway, guys, thanks so much. I'll see you in the next one.